to the future, neon glow. Through the fire we will grow. Every move a deadly flow. Next gen rising, let it show. Eyes ahead, the rhythm calls. Stand up tall, we break the walls. Train it up, train it high. Next gen reaching for the sky. Push the limit, don't ask why. This is how we're born to fly.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Next Gen Training here on the Sparta HQ Network. I'm Mr. Bennett, joined by my partner, as always, the coach, Coach Ferg, in the building tonight, sir. What's going on tonight? How you doing?
How you doing, Brother Bennett? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear, loud and clear. What's going on with you, sir?
Hey, man, just trying to make it through another week, man.
All right. How are those pies looking?
Oh, man, that's interesting. I was thinking about them right before we came on, man. That's my pee. I'm just going to keep praying, and I'm having, I think over the next 5 weeks, I have 4 or 5 doctor's appointments, because my arthritis it changes course. I was just explaining to my wife how it's a lot of it in my neck and shoulders and back, so just trying to fight through that. Have a couple of appointments coming up in the next week or so. So, but yeah, man, my intellectual, I think I'm in a good place. You know what I'm saying? Been able to always communicate with my wife about things we need to do in life and immediate and in the future. So that's always a good place to be in. My home is pretty much in peace for the most part. The only problems I have in the home is my German Shepherd when she wants to be a little stubborn. But other than that, man, everything's okay.
Yeah.
Emotionally, I think I'm taking on a little bit more worry than normal, just because, I can feel my body doing what it wants to do sometimes. And that's sort of, it stresses me out because I believe I'll have the energy at one moment, and then the next moment my body says no. So just fighting through that. And my wife, she's going through her little medical issues, and hers is all of a sudden. Mine has been pretty much ongoing. But yeah, spiritually, man, we just pray a lot, stay connected and talk a lot, enjoy each other's company, man. And that's appreciative despite everything else that's going on. Just being able to have a place of comfort and talking to her every day, from the world issues to, what we need within the house. So salute to that, man.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. Just as people are coming in tonight, just make sure you hit the like button, certainly as you come in, and also consider subscribing to the network. Again, we're very close to monetization. Just need a few more watch hours. So again, definitely looking forward to monetizing the channel. And that's just in part due to just the work that we put in. As anybody who's on this network, we really try to, produce a quality. We put quality over quantity, and we certainly try to put quality over sensational. And we want to give you good the vegetables and the good food, not just the candy, the stuff that lasts for a minute. But also, certainly for those who are going to be part of the chat tonight, just make sure when you come in, keep it clean and keep it respectful. That's all we ask for. You see scrolling at the bottom there. Again, no personal attacks, insults, or whatnot. We grown here, and so we want to keep a respectful atmosphere here. So just keep it clean in the channel, and but make sure, again, any questions that you may have, pass those questions on in the chat, and so we'll try to entertain those certainly as the show goes on. But we appreciate you guys being here. But as for me, physically, I'm pretty good. It's funny, I had another torturous leg day yesterday, so my legs are in recovery mode at this point. But I was just checking the numbers, like where I've been doing with leg extensions, and I've just been kind of very consistent with those. And when I look back over, I keep everything in an app that I use, and it's looking like I'm approaching numbers in terms of weight and reps that I haven't reached since 2019. Which is kind of scary to me that here it is like 7 years ago, and I'm starting to get close, and it's just a little at a time. 5 pounds here, 10 pounds here, and you just work up, and it's kind of like a pyramid type of approach or whatever. You give yourself enough recovery, and then you just go kind of hit it again. But I train just as hard now as I did 7 years ago, and so far, the body's been, for the most part, I've had a few pulls and whatnot here and there, some strains here and there, but I still keep grinding the way I've been grinding. But I just give myself a few more warm ups. I just don't go right into the workout. I try to get some blood flow and get the joints moving a little bit before I go into it. But yeah, physically feeling pretty good. Emotionally, intellectual, again, it's been somewhat of a trying week, certainly, except my wife and I, just dealing with, kids and young ladies. I shouldn't call them kids anymore, but just some growing pains that, we're trying to shepherd them through and whatnot. And the thing is, it's like, they're brilliant in terms of, like I said, the floor that they're operating on is so much higher than where my wife and I was. But how do you, use some wisdom, and how do you, I don't want to clip the wings, but I want to make sure they don't fly into a fan or something like that. Like a jet plane goes off. I don't want you flying into the engine of a plane either. So it's kind of like, how do you manage all of that? Sometimes they get so full of themselves. That's the thing. So it's like they smelling themselves a little bit, and so how do you help them sort of to tamp some of that stuff down? So that's kind of the situation here. So that's certainly, that could put some emotional stress on you. But like my wife and I, we've been in prayer, and we met with our pastors last week to kind of get some advice from them in terms of how to go forward with certain things and whatnot. So we're just all just wanting things to go right. And I don't want people to think, okay, well, man, you're in this tragic state. It was like, no, it's like, success, I think, and I don't know how you feel about this, Coach, but success can be as scary as failure sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
It's almost like when you start getting to your apex, that's when you can have the slip-ups. That's when you start feeling yourself a little bit, and then you kind of fall. And, so it's when you're on the mountain is when, a lot of people looking to knock you off it. And, so that's kind of where we are. How do you manage success is just as important as how you rebound from failure. I mean, I think both of them, they can be lessons. They can be teaching lessons or whatnot. And sometimes you're going to have to fail. I recognize that as a parent too, that, sometimes my kids are going to have to, you can say so much, you can, but then you have to pull away sometimes too, and just like, okay, you're just going to be the, consequences are just going to have to bear out. And then, I try not to be like I told you so kind of person or whatever. I'm there to try to pick them up, but sometimes you have to, let things just play out the way they play out. And so again, spiritually, just praying that, again, if they have to fall, that they don't fall so hard that they can't get back up. And that's really where the kind of, where that is. And it's like, my wife and I, we have the spirit, like we just kind of turn them over to God. It's like, God, we put in them what you told us to put in them, but then you're going to have to take them, to to that next level or what have you. So that's kind of the season that we're in right now, with all three of them, and so it's an interesting time. But like I said, we're not empty nesters by no means. I don't think I'll be an empty nester until either some boy walks them down the aisle or they get their own house or something like that. But yeah, it's just an interesting time. But
Brother Bennett,
yeah,
it's an interesting perspective when you're speaking of your daughters right now. I don't want to help out now, but I just got that image. Remember, I don't know if y'all did it when you was young, right? We used to catch June bugs, the big green bugs.
Yeah.
Tie some thread on their legs.
Ooh.
And fly them around like kites. We used to let them fly around like kites, right?
Really?
And I thought about that because you have young women now. See, you've been able to shelter the young girl. Now you have young women, and their vision is to the world, but they still have that. I still got one leg on I still got one leg on the porch, and the other leg is ready to take off running. Mm-hmm. So I can understand where you are, man, because it's like being more in tune to what's going on. It's scary to think that someone other than me have to navigate. Somebody that came from me has to navigate this crazy world. And you know what I'm saying? And at some point, it's going to have to be alone. But like you said, I just pray that you listened enough. And whenever I get a chance to say reinforce some of those things, that they'll be able to live long like we have. Mm-hmm. At least, make, what I'm saying? That's my listen. I'm 58. As long as I climb, hey son, look, get to 58, man. get to 45, get to 58. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And take what you learn and embrace it. Don't. That's why I used to have to tell a lot of young folk, the spaces that you're in, learn to embrace that. Because once you pass it, you can't get it back. Just embrace it, accept the ups and the downs about it, and use it as a learning tool and a stepping stone. So when you get to a certain place, you can look back and say, man, I overcame a lot despite of. And sometimes, I know daughters, because if you could block for them every day, you would block for them every day. Mm-hmm. You would have your blocking pads on, blocking, and see, they running backs. Running backs is faster than a lineman, so he gonna be a little. They try.
I don't know. I think they. You call running backs. I think they're more like wide receiver. Wide receivers are they're divas. All wide receivers are divas, and they certainly exemplify that. So I think they're more in that space.
It's your fault. Because I seen you in your little outfits on your picture, looking fly and suave. I seen your outfits, so they learn from you. I'm trying
to give them an image of a black man that is okay. This is what you need to, hopefully you model or give an example to look at. And it's interesting because again, a couple of them, they can be very flighty. It's like they may be messing with a guy or whatever, but it's like, okay, so when I'm going to meet him. So they already know what the kind of what the standard is. It's like, why are you playing around with a guy that if I'm gonna have something to say, but women they'll be like, but I like him though. So it's like you can only do so much. But I know to this day, especially my youngest one, this guy's like, I said, look, if y'all want to hang over here, we got a basement, TV, y'all can hang out over here, and whatnot if you want to, and it's like. And said, but he's intimidated by you, Dad. So I don't know. I guess I got the military outfits on, so maybe I give off major pain, or I don't know what I'm getting off here with this shirt. But they know what the standard is, whether or not and they know certainly right from wrong. Whether or not they always follow or not, that's the question. And so again, part of what we've been doing with this series of shows and Next Gen Training is we've been dealing with this idea of anger management, but I see at the just what we've been going through, certainly personally with my daughters and everything. A lot of the anger management stuff, it's not so much about, well, I'm not going to be angry anymore. It's about knowing yourself.
That's it.
And what certainly, and that's embracing everything. I'm not saying we all have flaws, right? We all have things that we would like, even at our ages at 56 and 58. We have things about us that we want to change. We have things that we know we need to get better at. That process never stops, in us. But I certainly think that one thing for me was the more I got to understand who I was and also to embrace a lot of it. We're not saying that you got to do a total 180 on your personality. But again, my thing is something working for you or not? Are you getting the outcomes that you want? And if that is true, then keep doing what you're doing. Yes. But if your behavior starts to become self-destructive to yourself and to the people around you or whatnot, then hey, maybe those are things that need to be looked at. And also, just as a caveat, a disclaimer that we always put on the show is we are not therapists. We're not, again, you got a lot of the big news as of the last couple of weeks. You got a lot of these so-called therapists who are going around giving advice, and they're finding out, they call themselves doctor and they're not doctors. And in actuality, they just kind of give themselves these titles and whatnot and created a social media following and whatnot. We're not trying to do any of that. It's basically we're two guys who, we've lived some life. We have some information. We share it with people, and then we say, look, take it what you can, supermarket approach. Take what you can use. If you think that what we're sharing tonight would be of use to a young person or anybody really, but especially if you're anywhere between 12 and 21, if you think this information would be useful, then share it with them. We have a playlist on the site where you can get a catalog of all our shows. We tell you how to, talk about dress code and business and how to go for an interview and searching for work and employment and business cards. I think we even did a show on how to have a proper business card. I mean, we're just sharing things because again, we want people to win. We want young people to win. We want, if you're winning, we want you to keep on winning.
Right.
And that's really our goal here tonight. We're just two guys trying to give some sage advices. And if it works for you, great. If not, then again, it doesn't impact us, but we hope that the information that we're giving you, and again, it may not be, this might not be now information, right? This could be later information. You may not think this is of value to you now, but again, save our playlist.
Yeah.
And then when that time comes where you say, oh, I think I can use from that, or comes to mind somebody who can benefit from that, a parent who could benefit from the information that we're sharing, then share the content with people. And that's really for us. That's all we're looking for. We're not doing it for money. I think certainly Coach has had a lifetime working with. Is it hard to say thousands of kids?
Yeah,
would you say?
No, I would say at least if I was to put a number from 1990, what was that? I started first coaching in 92. From that point, man, I'll say about, I don't know, high school, I say about 10 to 12,000.
Yeah.
People just from 3 months old to 65-year-olds.
Yeah.
Out of every population you can think of.
Yeah. And I've trained certainly in the hundreds, if not the thousands, as a trainer, as a lecturer. I've done seminars on, health and fitness. Certainly I personally train people. Just all kinds of venues where I've been, just making myself available. I'm not saying I'm an expert in anything, and I'm certainly not putting a doctor in my hashtag or anything. But again, both, I think Coach and I both have a heart for people.
Yeah.
He might have a better heart more for kids than I do. Me, kids, I can kind of go, I can take or leave them sometimes. But but I love teenagers though, in that I love their curiosity.
Yes.
When they start to question the world around them and whatnot, and I'm, if a curious person, I'm always like to be around folks like that. So we just have a heart and mind for kids and just people in general that we just want to, again, give what we have, not as experts, but here's just something to consider. And so with that, yeah.
No, I just wanted to jump in real quick. And you speaking about, someone who may, this information may benefit, right? And this is what I want to say about it. As parents, as family members, we spend a lot of time talking to our children, talking to our relatives about how to be better, right? And sometimes that goes on a deaf ear when we're constantly being that person.
Yep.
They don't want to be around us sometimes. I remember my father giving me some of the best talks in the world, but I wasn't trying to hear it. I'm
Right.
like, man, I gotta go. But
That's
then
right.
once I got into the space, what I found out was this is what used to always happen. My mama was telling me about that. My daddy was telling me the same thing. My grandma, my grandfather. So, and then when I meet the parent, I say, listen, this is why I need your support because you're going to always be emotional about what it is you want or expect your child to do, right? So I used to tell them, let me bury that weight. Let me be the bad guy. And you just reinforce the conversations and the things that we discuss. Because if I'm gonna bring you into it, because I used to have accountability, integrity, and I wouldn't just lecture. I would show video. I would show other people talking about how to be better, and I just help navigate them through it when they have questions, when they turn a blind eye. Some people are like, man, that ain't true. Okay, let's talk about it. And being able to talk about it, especially when you have a group, and then, oh yeah, I see, I didn't think about it like that. Okay, so now you have that tool.
Okay.
This is the way you move forward. And then when you come to another little roadblock or the fork in the road, it's always good to bring that to the forefront. And this, and I used to say, listen, I'm your uncle. I was a lot of uncle. I used to tell the kid, you want me to be the father or the uncle? What you mean by that? Father, when I tell you this, you going to do it. Ain't going to be no second guessing. You going to do it. And I'm going to make sure you do it. Uncle, I can give you this conversation and you're on your own.
Yeah.
And when I break it down, they're like, you mean tell me you would do this for me? Yes. But you ain't related to me, so what? I'm in this position to make sure you be the best.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fight. I used to let them know, I would fight you to fight for you. I wasn't afraid to make sure that a kid understood or a young adult. Even, man, I used to have somebody crying, man. You talking about, man, Brother Benny Mendes, man. And this is why I always take feelings out of it. Man, I've spent at least $500 on Kleenex alone, man. Because people, once they realize that somebody is saying, I can, and they show up, man, them people, the greatest feeling in the world, I used to get to see their whole mindset change. Everything changed. And they become more peaceful within themselves. They become more loving and understanding of who they are, things that make them tick and, sometimes go down a bad road. But when those things happen, man, there's nothing better, man. So just and I'm going to say this, if you know someone who's going through these transitional moments, instead of worrying yourself, beating yourself on the head, just pop in one of these videos, wherever it is. If it's about money, they want to buy a house, they want to get a better job, they understand their emotions a little better, just go through Next Gen Training videos, and you only have to do the talking. You can just let the videos talk for themselves and just sort of, help coach them through it if they come to a misunderstanding. So.
Absolutely. And certainly, just as a reminder, certainly you guys can any questions that you may have for us. Again, we have an email, NXTGN Training 101, NextGenTraining101 @gmail.com. So again, any questions that you may have for us, if you was looking for a particular video, couldn't find it or whatever, just send an email there. We'll get you we'll send you the direct links, certainly to the videos that deal with a particular topic. So again, any way we can be of assistance to you guys, certainly we want to do that. So again, NXTGEN Training, NextGenTraining101 @gmail.com. Certainly drop us there. Also drop us suggestions. Are there topics that you want us to try to talk about that we haven't covered? I mean, that's the one thing that me and Coach were talking about before we got into this last series. It's like, we were kind of running because we covered so many different topics. And so how much more can we talk about? But again, we want to hear from you guys. If there's a topic that you want to have discussed, if you're dealing with a young person and they might be going through some things or whatever, and you need some advice in terms of how to do things, whatever, drop it there, and we can make that the subject of a show. And so we just want to, again, make ourselves available to people who would find our information useful. And and just be another resource. That's all we're trying to be here, certainly in this space. But let's get into this this next topic tonight. So we're in part 4 of anger management. Okay, and today we're going to be talking about exploring your values. Okay, and so this, just to kind of give you just a review of what we've talked about so far, certainly in series. So again, part 1 again gave us an opportunity to again ask us questions about again who we are, okay, what motivates us, what triggers us, how we feel about ourselves, and how other people perceive us. Part 2, we went further, again assessing our personal qualities, values, and that makes us special and unique. In part 3, we also started to take some steps. All right, so again, now that we know some things about ourselves, what actual steps can we make? Can we do to make the changes necessary to live a more peaceful life with others? And we're going to be kind of in this part 4, we're going to be taking that to just an extension of what we did last week. So in part 4, we'll ask ourselves, again, what we value in ourselves and how those values relate to others. So again, this is going to be another source of assessment. And what we're going to be using tonight is a guide. So exploring my values guide. So, so this is a circle, and within this circle, it has different values that we want you guys to kind of go through and to select which ones mean to you. So at the end, I mean, we have the entire circle in terms of, just to see what's going on. So we got this big circle with all these, but we want to kind of, before just turning this over to you, we want to kind of explore each section. So basically, you have at the poles and at the edges, you have different aspects. So at the top, you have working for yourself, working for self, and then working with others. And then on the left side, you have caring for self and caring for others. Okay, and then we have certainly nuances between each one of these along the circle. Okay, so but this is again having to do with a bit more of that personal assessment. Again, the things that, because I see, Coach, a lot of times people who are angry, a lot of times it's like they know what they need or they want, but are they also willing to give that to other people? And so if you want relationships to work, whatever, if you're always angry, why can't I have, and people sometimes say, it's like, well, again, what's going on with you? What's your attitude? What's your attitude kind of been like or whatever? So, because a lot of times people will ask for things in people that they're not willing necessarily to give themselves. And so, so this here will also help you in terms of assessing a lot of those qualities and values. So we're going to take a quadrant. So we're going to take treat it like a pie. We're going to deal with it in 4 different sections. And we're just going to sort of break this down and just kind of give you some guidelines. Again, this is work that you're going to do on your own. But just use this as a resource, and let us know again if you want us to email you this chart here. Again, send the Next Gen Training 101, and we will email you this so you'll have it certainly to go on. So we're going to kind of talk about it here and highlight the different qualities and the values here and how they help in each one of these quadrants that we're talking about on the list. But again, this also was provided from Coach. So again, Coach, as always, certainly appreciate you providing the information. But anything you want to kind of highlight on this before we kind of do a deeper dive into each quadrant?
No, man, I think, it sort of speaks for itself. I think, as we go through it, then people can see how they all are interlocked with each other. And sometimes it just takes people time to discover that full circle in themselves. People go into it's sort of like a pie in a sense.
For sure.
And then it goes into a circle because those are extensions of all of us at variations at times in our life.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So just people have to, like you said, people just have to be willing to put in the work. And face those ugly truths sometimes. So.
Yeah. And also, does this help you also identify, again, what do you need if you're not, again, getting the outcomes that you need? What are the values that you may need to implement? They say, and again, we all struggle with something. Not everybody has all these things down. But if you know you need to grow in a particular area, this will also help you to identify that if I want more out of, for example, out of self, to go to the very top of the the chart here. There's certain things that you're going to have to implement in your life, and we'll talk about those. But if you want to work with other people, that's a totally different set of values. It doesn't mean that the values of working for self aren't important, but when you're working with other people, it's different values that you need to employ. And so again, this will hopefully help you to identify, okay, where those areas I am lacking, and then you can start to do the work. Going back to the lesson from last week, what things that you want to implement in place to help you change some of those things or to grow in those areas that you need to grow in. And so that's really the purpose of this here. As always, it's going to be different for every person. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, things that they want to improve. And that's the other thing about it also. You got to want to do these things. Just like last week we talked about, if you're not ready for change, then none of what we've been talking about really here is really going to help you too much. And so, so that's a piece that, you're going to have to manage and navigate. The desire. We're just giving you some how-to, some steps, but you're ultimately the one who has to take charge of these things. So let's deal with the top. Start with the top left. And so the idea here is, again, and the instructions for this is, again, so what you're going to do is for each one of these attributes, these values, you're going to put a circle all the values you would like to demonstrate towards yourself and others. All right. So again, this is gets into, again, your personal assessment, but again, it's for yourself and for others. So again, if you look at the very top piece here, this is, again, working for yourself. And then you also have a caring for self on the left. So the I guess this would be like the northwest corner of the grid. And some of these overlap. I just wanted to make sure that the wording got there. So again, if you look at for caring for self, there's certainly a self-protection piece on the upper half, and then once you start getting more into working for others, there's also a self-care piece that you're going to need. So again, all of these here. So again, caring for self, self-protection, self-care. Again, being hopeful. That's important. I see a lot of people who are, when you got anger management issues, a lot of it is coming from a sense of hopelessness. That a lot of their angst comes from they thinking that their situation cannot change. And so, again, what the things that you're looking to do that you can have more hope, certainly in the future, right? Also being curious, okay, about the world that you're in, being ambitious. As you start to go up towards the north, you're starting to get more into things that you control. But it kind of starts with, again, caring for self, again, the protection, the self-care, being curious, learning. You got to be willing to learn every day. Is that a value today? Being ambitious. Yeah, no one's just going to put success in front of you. Being courageous, growth, persistence. And again, where the nuance is on this here is, guess, me separate from others. A lot of times success or failure is oftentimes in these things that people, if you're not curious about the world, if you're not ambitious, if you don't have the courage to go through things that you might be fearful of, if you're not willing to grow, and if you're not going to be persistent, then again, you're not going to get the values that you want. So again, in this half, you start to circle, again, those things that you would like to demonstrate towards yourself and others. What are the areas that I want to improve? What do I value? Or put another way, what of these attributes will, that will benefit me in the future? Coach, I think, is that a better way of kind of expressing the point?
Yeah, the future thing definitely, but also it sort of intertwines with the beginning. And I like when I see it because I always try to attach things to different places in my life. And I'll just use from one side. I went to college straight out of high school. Took my little scholarship because I injured my knee. I went for another year. Then I said, okay, I was curious about the workforce because I never really had a real job, but I was cutting hair, making pretty good money as a teen. So I was like, okay, let me try this workforce. Did that for a while, worked about a year off and on. I was like, and I had a best buddy who had joined the service. So now I'm curious again, like, okay, let me try something again. And once I got in, everything went from curiosity to ambition. I wanted more.
Hmm.
I've always had the courage to try new stuff. I didn't have to do like if you were my friend and we hung out, if you did something crazy and I saw how you burly made, I'm not going to risk it all and say, yeah, I'm going to do. I've always had the courage to say, man, that's for you. I ain't going to do that. I have
And
my
that's
own mind.
right. And that's the part where it says again, me separate from others. That's what separated you
Yeah.
or going down the path versus where maybe some of your friends wound up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy because it's hand in hand because I seen the destructions when I was coming home. I was like, man, some of my buddies are falling off. And that ambition I wanted to, that ambition and growth went hand in hand because the more I had ambition, the more I grew. The more I grew, the more ambition I had.
Mhm.
And I had to be persistent. I remember, I'll say this and I'll be quiet. When I just got out of the military, I had already planned to go back to school. That was the reason why I did 7 years. And once I got injured, I said, I'm gonna get out and go to school. I could have re-enlisted. I said, no, I'm gonna get out and go back to school because college was a thing that I saw soldiers needed after 20 years in the military.
Yeah.
I said, no, let me leapfrog that. I knew I needed to go to school because I was able to be around people getting out 20, 25 years. Like, I'm going to go back to school. I used to look at them like, man, you 40 going on 50 years old.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, I got an opportunity. I got out, went straight to shout out to Mississippi State, man, SEC school, man. I enrolled in school before I left. I spent that first semester in Kentucky. Before that semester was over, I told myself, I said, you know what? If I want to succeed in what I'm doing as far as completing college, I must be willing to leave this place. I'd already knew somebody down in Mississippi. I transferred straight down to Mississippi, man, after that first semester because I knew in order for me to accomplish the things I wanted, I had to have courage to get away from what was comfortable.
Mhm.
And once I did that, man, I was able to just expound my life 10 times, man. Like I said, man, just the I guess the persistence I had to say I wasn't going to fail, encouraging other friends to, don't give up. It just became a part of who I was, man.
Yeah.
So, and YouTube, I'm older now, I'm through fighting the world. So,
Totally.
you know what I'm saying? So to see people like struggling with some of these things, I'm like, I sort of embraced it early on. I didn't fight people giving me advice about stuff. Anybody, if you can give me advice, I used to, because I learned it from my father. My father drank. It seemed to me like he drank every day,
Mhm.
but he worked every day. He retired at 60 because he worked every day. He taught me hard work from day one, and just so those confidence builders. My mother never told me what I couldn't do. My father just tell me, boy, you gonna do it. And I quit, man, you don't know. Mom, like, you can do it. So just having those, I guess those foundations,
Right.
I refuse to allow myself to be a second class citizen in my mind. I was like, I
Gotcha.
would never be a second class citizen in this world, and it just
Gotcha.
sort of worked out. So
Gotcha. Yeah, and that certainly just as we move towards the top, you're seeing again there's no substitute for hard work.
not at all.
You can pray, for it. You can do all that stuff, name and claim it. You can do all that kind of stuff. But again, there's no substitute for hard work. There's no substitute for achievement. And then if I just go to the other side, I just want to make sure we get these other attributes because some of it got cut off. So again, you got hard work, you got the achievement, responsibility. Okay.
Yes,
Again, there's no that's the cheat code. Everyone wants a cheat code in life. There is no substitute for any of those things. If you want to benefit yourself, if you don't have those values, again, you're not going to win long term. You may win in the short term, and I've seen a lot of people kind of crash and burn, especially y'all young people. Again, some of y'all be smelling yourselves when you get out there and whatnot because you did achieve something or whatnot. But again, responsibility. If you want that, whatever you work hard for, if you're not responsible, if you're not honest, you can very easily lose all that which you work for. And so for a lot of people, they live in such the now, they don't think about like what's going to happen down the line. And also what I'm concerned about this is like if you don't develop these it's harder if you don't develop these habits early or embrace these values early. But I would encourage, I know this is everyone's individual, piece to do. Certainly circle the areas that you think, that you find valuable. But I would say, if I was going to make a suggestion, I would say, again, hard work, responsibility, and persistence. Going back just to the other side of it, the persistence. There's no substitute for any of that. All right. So again, these are things that definitely will help you out. But as you can see on the left side, again, in the middle there, again, me separate from others. Okay, that works for you. But once you start working a little bit over to the right side of this here, how I act towards others. Again, you can do quite a bit on the left side here. But again, long-term success isn't always based on your own individual abilities. And again, I get you have a lot of self-starters, and I know people like that, coaches, like I want to do it by myself. And again, you that'll take you a good distance. It will.
Yeah.
The things that separate you from other people, again, persistence, being curious, ambitious. I mean, again, getting a head start on people. That will take you up to a certain point. But when you talk about income, coach, a lot of it isn't just about your skills or abilities.
Yeah.
It's about how you can take those skills and how you can apply them into a cause that's bigger than yourself. We always dealing with athletics, right? You could be the best basketball player, the best football player. But to be a part of a team, we've seen, unless your talent is ridiculous, like now some teams, some programs, if you're that good, they'll tolerate, let's say, a little bit more than a kid who doesn't have necessarily the skills. I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this either. I mean, certainly it's not always people aren't always getting treated fairly, but certainly though, it comes a point where if you don't start to exhibit qualities on this side, so when you talk about again how I act towards others, part of it is responsibility. Again, you're responsible to a team. Honesty with yourself and honesty towards others. But now you start to get into things, again, how I act towards others. Can you empathize with people? Respect, kindness, love, and compassion. Again, we've seen a lot of very aggressive, very, what you would call them, coach, very not so much goal. I'm trying to find the right word for this. It goes like well beyond ambition. It's the type of person that's like, I'll squash you to get to the top. I don't care who I hurt or whatever, as long as I get mine.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, unless you have these qualities on the right, again, you're still working for yourself. It still works on your behalf. And no one's saying that you put others before you. But to get what's on the right without considering the left, or to get what you have on the left without considering what's on the right, you're only going to go so far in life. So yes, talent, natural gifts that you're born with, things that you develop, being a go-getter, being ambitious, all those things are great, but it doesn't serve you necessarily long-term unless you're Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're Kobe Bryant. I was watching an interview with a former player played with Kobe, and he asked the question, why Kobe? Why are you such an a-hole? because he was so driven. He had Kobe Bryant was basically like this side of the aisle on steroids. I mean, he was so dedicated, so persistent, and worked harder than anybody else. Again, he was the first one to practice, the last one to leave. And, but again, he wasn't one to have a lot of these things on the other side. Now, in his defense, he would say, well, a lot of those guys didn't have what I had. A lot of those guys were lazy. A lot of those guys didn't really work hard. They would be 10 minutes. They come to practice 10 minutes before practice started. They'd be the first ones out of there. I'm back here still working on my game. And so building a culture that helps people to, if you implementing these values that help people get more of what's on this side. And Coach, I want you to talk about that a little bit. How does, especially when you talk about leadership, because basically that's what we're talking about here on this side. These are certainly leadership qualities, but talk about how these type of qualities here can help stir these values on this side. I'd like to hear your perspective on that.
I mean, just go back to the other side real quick.
Yep.
And because a lot of these things on, these, I guess, pathways here, a lot of this could already be in somebody, right? That's one thing I like young people, man, because they pretty much let you know exactly a lot of times where they stand. If they don't respect you, you're going to know first day.
Yes, sir.
They're going to climb. They're going to do everything they can to piss you off. I've seen it done to a lot of people who had the 2 degrees and had all this experience, but they couldn't relate to people.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was 6 years old when my granny died, and I remember me and my father going to the. I guess he went to view the body. I guess he wanted to go by himself. And I was a kid. I was wandering around, right? So I walked out of the main room. I turned the corner to the left, and the first thing I saw was a little baby. I mean, couldn't have been a month-old baby. And I don't know. I don't remember what I said, but I do remember my actions. I said a prayer because I remember doing my hands like this over the baby. And I kissed that baby on the hand. And I think that was probably the defining moment in my life to where I wanted to have an understanding and be kind and have compassion to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I was the kid in the neighborhood that would teach kids how to shoot a shot, how to throw a football, how to kick the kickball, catch the baseball. That was always me.
Right.
That was always me. When I saw guys coming up behind me and they wanted to go out for the basketball team, and I was like, man, come to the court. They would come and we would play some games, and I show them how to. I don't know why they looked up to me, Brother Bender. I was only about 15, 16, 17 years old the whole time I was in high school and as a kid. And so it just was a part of me but I also saw it from my mother, how my mother helped people. How she would my mother has 7 kids. She's babysitting kids once we was all teenagers. I'm like, Mom,
wow.
you got 7. Boy, I love kids. Okay, cool. Kids didn't have a bad attitude towards my mom. None of my siblings had issues with my parents growing up. None of them can say, you know what I'm saying? They can say something about my daddy, but he was only responding about, you know, his own personal issues he had.
Right.
But he made sure we was equipped with everything. And just to be able to take that and then actually have to exemplify some of this in a career. When I started going into people's houses in Chicago, it changed my life to see how some of these young people were exposed to some of these situations and have enough, I guess, enough kindness and compassion and honesty with some of these people who were actually implementing some of these issues.
Right.
Having to have that conversation. And I just embraced that. I didn't complain about it. Having sessions with, what's it called when you have your one-on-ones with your supervisor?
Yeah,
She started asking me how you
yeah.
remain calm, how you don't. I said, because one, it's not me. I'm just trying to make a situation better.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know, man. I've never had problems in the schools I was in. I'll say this now, be quiet, man. I used to, at some point after I've been harassing kids half the year, I would always ask them, do y'all think I'm nice? Everybody would say yes. I'd be like, y'all sure? They'd be like, I'd be like, wasn't I just on you, you know what I'm saying, getting on you? Yeah, but you do it in a nice way. What you mean? And I used to think I was, you know, hard. I used to ask, teachers love when I showed up at the class. I don't know why. They be like, come on in, we ain't doing nothing. Whatever y'all doing, y'all stop listening to him. And I would just, you know, let them know, like, man, you're in a great place in life. Embrace it. Respect the school, respect learning, respect the math. If you do anything, if you on the band, you should be trying to play your instrument every day. If you can write, embrace those things. So it just, man, and I'm glad that I took the path that I did early enough to see that just embracing those things and being honest with myself. You know, that's why I used to ask those questions, man, especially after I done spent weeks. I remember working with all females who were on drugs and had children.
Wow.
I used to have to sit them down in my little office and we going through the scenarios, and I'm providing information to mothers from a 3-month-old all the way up to a 5-year-old on how to care for that child, certain markers to look for as far as learning and cognitive development, right? And when you meeting with somebody who's in denial, sometimes it takes a lot to say, hey, I know, I understand. However, there's something greater than you.
Yeah.
Own that responsibility, because at some point when that child grows old, they're going to always refer back to what they did or did not get from you. And we see it on YouTube. I wasn't taught this. I wasn't taught that. However, you're in that space. So you have to be willing to embrace the knowledge and just be honest with yourself. So, and you know, just love your ugly, you know, so it's interesting.
Now, speaking of that, Coach, now there's one attribute here that and we've had other shows certainly on the Sparta HQ Network talked about the subject, even if it exists or not. But it also lists love here.
Yeah.
as
I
one of those
understand that.
attributes.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious. Do you think that that this is an entity that exists in and of itself outside of these? Like if you are have responsibility, honesty, empathy, respect, kindness, and compassion. But if I took the love out, would it still work, or could you even have those things if you did not love? Could you have these other attributes? So what's your thoughts on this one? This is the only one out of the what's on here, and again, I want to get your opinion on it because it was just kind of, and that discussion that we had with Boss Man when he used to be on the network. We had several shows on this and like what is love, or what makes up love, and I'm just thinking that these things here, again, honesty, compassion, respect, kindness, compassion. If there was one, I would say maybe you may not lead as much, because what I also see is that, and again, especially in the spaces that you've certainly worked in, can you allow yourself to invest heavily in this, or does the love piece help you do the other things better, or do you have to kind of have a certain distance as much as you want to help and be involved in these kids, and you're certainly you're acing with all these other areas? Is the love piece, can that be draining on you, or have you found yourself getting drained because you care too much for a kid, or you got too closely involved? So talk about that a little bit. That love aspect.
Love is something that I always separate. I would set love off to the side. I would set it off to the side, and for myself, I would reference to, like, as for me, I love the challenge of the mind. I love that challenge, especially the mind that's developing and looking for answers. I love that, because they're not always going. People, when they're in a bad headspace, they're not always going to agree with what you show them or what you provide for them. They're not
Right.
going to agree with it.
Right.
They so comfortable in that bad space. So I used to always set the love aside.
But what does that mean to you, though, especially in light of those other attributes above it? That could someone do their job effectively or as effectively without love, but they're bringing those other components? Or the other way to ask it is, if you didn't have love, you couldn't do the other things above it, or it wouldn't come off as genuine if you left the love out of it. So when you say take the love out of it, could you even do those other things?
For me, yes, but I would say most people who are actually working with the disenfranchised, it's hard. It's hard for them, right? Because they get so wound up in that individual's issues, and then it starts affecting their lives.
It's draining, yeah.
Yes, and
Because then you have to go back over to the left side, because we got here the self-care and self-protection.
Yes.
You want to be invested in people.
Yeah.
And again, this can also lead to your anger. So sometimes you make choices, right? So again, you put so much in, or we've seen people who love themselves or love others so selflessly that they forget about themselves after a while.
Yes.
And I've seen people break. Like, you hear the thing like, I give so much to so many people, but no one is loyal, or no one is thinking about me or whatever, but I just keep giving and giving. But who's taking care of me? Who's checking on me to see if I'm good? And I've seen people in the field. I know people personally. My daughters, they talk about some of their friend groups and whatnot. And it's like, they got some, it's like, they're along for the ride, but are they checking on them to make sure that they're good? I got daughters, they'll give their shirts off their backs to certain people. Would they get that in return? So you have this sort of this paradigm here. Is like, how much You invest in, again, your self-protection and self-care, but then you got this love piece that is can be so sacrificial that a lot of people have trouble balancing. And some people, like you said, they take the love out of it, but in part because so they can do their job better. Mm-hmm. Because if you get too invested, then sometimes that can blind you in certain things. Like the certain decisions that have to be made. And it may not be necessarily, like you said, sometimes the right move or the right decision isn't always the painless one. Your decision can be right, but it can still hurt, or at least in the short term. And so some people, they just take the love out altogether because it just, but I'm asking, but if you take love, how can you be compassionate? Can you be compassionate if you don't love people? Can you be truly kind or respect or have empathy if you don't have a certain type of love for people? I know the Bible talks about these different types of love, agape love and phileo and all these different types of dynamics of love. But just for you, since you work with, again, thousands of kids over a 30-plus year career.
And see, that's why I separated, because I have to love myself first to be as unbiased as possible with the information. So I understood, I used to people used to say, man, you show high on yourself. Yes, I love myself. This is all I got.
They told them, but say that again, Coach. What they say?
I love myself. You high on yourself. Yes, I love myself. This is all I got. I used to tell people this, and that's why I use this term. Accept you're ugly. You're here just like me. We have a heart, lungs. We just have to be able to navigate through life with our different mindsets. But love yourself. You can't. Some things you can't change physically. This is what we got. But mentally and emotionally, you can change those things, and it's not going to take away from who you are. And that's the thing. I used to be like, man, love yourself. How can we get you to that point? And when I start calling it out, and it's funny when you say stuff, and I was one of those guys, but I would say something about, like, man, all of us got big heads. People now, oh man, I done never got that smoke. What you mean? And they used to ask the question, what you mean we got a big head? Your head big too? Yes. I got a Charlie Brown head. I've been having it since I was a kid. I love it. This is what you get when I come outside. I just make it look good. So embrace what you are, love yourself, and think physically, I mean, it could change depending on, most young folk, they good with weight. But then when it comes down to having that empathy for others, how do you develop that? You love yourself and acknowledge yourself, then you'll realize it's okay to acknowledge someone other than you. It's okay to have respect. The three things I use: have respect for people, places, and things.
Yep.
Places you go, respect it. Things like somebody give you something, respect it.
Yeah, 100%.
So just little cues I used to just adopt. I may pick it up somewhere, just reading something, and just owning it and bringing it back. And again, this whole right side, it's hard to be identified in this space if someone has those qualities about them, because everybody's trying to defend something and make an argument for something, and just instead of just understanding that, other people have a right to live and be acknowledged too. And it's not a threat to me that Brother Bennett loves himself and his family. You know what I'm saying? Great. So I'll hope to be like you one day.
I mean, it's like when you say, well, I got the best wife in the world.
Right.
Now, that's no insult to Coach.
Right.
Because Coach, he should say,
I got
I got the best wife. You know what I'm saying? I don't take offense, so it doesn't trigger me when you say, what do you mean? What proof, what validation, what metrics that you have to define as? Like, I don't have to. I mean, it's like, so you know your world, and again, she's the best person for you. So, and from your worldview, she is the best in the world. I have no right to be, need to be envious of that. And that's another thing too. For a lot of people who are dealing with anger issues, there is that insecurity that they cannot empathize with people because they're so focused on self. They're so angry or whatever that they can't show compassion or kindness with people. They can't be honest. So again, it is the opposite of what of what it takes in order to quell some of your issues. And so again, this side here, with the acting towards others, but a lot of it has to do with this side on the left. And keep in mind, if you haven't been, if these aren't values, it's going to make the other side even harder. Because I've seen people, you don't have any ambition, you're not curious, you're not growing, you're not persistent, you quit everything before it starts. This starts to develop some self-hatred in you that you don't like yourself very well because, again, you don't have these values. But again, having those selfish values are important if you really want to exercise these. And so ask yourself, if you can't have these values, could it be because you haven't focused on these values? And so again, we don't want you necessarily circling everything. Again, what area here are you weakest in? Now, if you're weak in all of them, then that's a big problem, and definitely seek some professional help and counseling on that. But let's go to the bottom half. So we got at the top again, we got working for self and caring for self, but we got another aspect of certainly working with other people. Let's go to the bottom half of the grid. So again, you're still in that self-care space and then working with others. So between self-care and working with others, there's a question to be asked here. How do I respond to individuals? So if I go back up to the upper half, because each one of these points here, the opposite of the point is on the other side, or a contrasting point is directly across on the other side of the circle. So in the top right, how do I act towards others? And in the bottom left, how I respond to individuals. So it's two different qualities, and the attributes of the values that are listed here serve different purposes. How do I respond to individuals versus how do I act towards individuals? So this is what you get. Basically, this is kind of what you give to people. And the bottom half is, again, how do you respond when people give to you? So the top half, what you give out, what you receive. And I've seen people have a trouble with this. I've seen people who are great givers, but they don't receive very well. And that's an imbalance also. And I've just over the years, I've had, again, younger adults that I've mentored and taught to in the past or whatever. They have a really hard time. They'll give you the shirt off their back if you gave them anything. They feel a certain way about it. So what are the attributes that lead to the values in terms of how you respond to people? Okay. So again, patience. Now this one, Coach, we talk about young people a lot here, but I don't know what it is, man. I thought they say patience is a virtue, right? And I see more older people who have no patience at all. I don't know what happened. I thought we were supposed to be like the Obi-Wan Kenobis and the the wizard, the Yodas of the world, because we thought we knew something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I see so many people Gen X and up got no patience for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I see more young people have more patience than older people, but it's just like the tolerance for stuff. But we're the ones who are supposed to, know that things take time and things that is because we've lived it, right? But I just see more crotchety people in our age bracket, so I don't know why that is. I'd love to get your 2 cents on that. But again, the attributes, again, the values, forgiveness, gratitude, which again, a lot of people have problems with humility, modesty, cooperation. Again, if you talk about working with other people, and also again, the contrast again from the top is working for self, and at the bottom working for others. So again, different values, but again, in terms of how you respond when people interact with you, can you accept compliment? I know some people can't take a compliment. They self-conscious, or I hear people like they just downplay themselves. Oh, you look good in that, or hey, that's it's like people aren't comfortable. So talk about this lower quadrant, because again, a lot of times we think that we put so much emphasis on this part of the circle, ambition, growth, and hard work, and all these kind of things here, and we think this is what the key to success is everything is in this upper left quadrant. But we talk about soft skills, Coach, and a lot of soft skill, which also leads to personal and individual success, is captured here. And a lot of people miss it. And like I said, what I'm seeing, older people are just, I don't know. I mean, I pray that I never become that crotchety old dude who says, get off my lawn. I just hope I don't get there, Coach. But I'm seeing more about people. I was like, come on, bro. I mean, or ladies, they just, no patience. That was the surprise to me when I didn't pay attention until I guess I got to this age, and obviously I'm hanging out with a lot more people in my age bracket. And that was a bit of a surprise to me, because I've always thought that this has been one of my values, and certainly one of the things I've tried to that I've been complimented on over the years, that you're so patient with people. And I'm like, yeah, and I think at my age now, I think I'm more patient because again, I know what it takes. And so why do you think people are just, especially older people, our people, are flailing in this area? And then anything you want to talk about on these other attributes?
Man, maybe because they becoming empty nesters, right? And they didn't really like their own children, and the grandkids are giving them hell out there, man. A lot of this, man, I was just thinking about my mother the whole time, man. I was thinking about my mother, man, just seeing how she had patience with her 7 children and was still able to watch somebody else's children. And she didn't do too much cleaning when we all became age appropriate.
Right.
But other than that, man, she cooked a lot, you know what I'm saying? She made sure we all had what we needed. I don't remember my parents having fights in the house. I was the one. I think for me, the big thing was forgiveness, right?
Mhm.
You know, when you're young, you're getting in trouble and you don't want to. But
Yeah.
then, you know, it's like once the punishment has been handed down, it's like, okay, me and my dad, mom, we back to normal. I'm back to asking 1,000 questions, you know, and just um, having the forgiveness. I guess it's more prevalent to me now that I'm older because I have patience for those who are less knowledgeable or
Mhm.
at an age where they are more impressionable. I have
Yeah.
patience for them. Adults, especially now as we've gotten to that senior list,
Mhm.
I don't have patience for people to, I guess, promote deviant behavior, promote the worst of the image of me and you.
Mhm.
I don't want to associate with it. I'm gonna call it out from the beginning.
Mhm.
So I've always taken that. I'm always grateful for everything. I'm grateful that the fact that I'm older.
Mhm.
You know, I'm grateful for the fact that my parents paid enough attention to us to where we all were excited to be, you know, adults in the world and having an
Mhm.
impact. So, and humility, man. Listen, man, I'm real humble. I used to. It's so many things that I used to want to tell my friends about what was happening with me. I just didn't get caught up in it. I'm not a type of person that's my story is going to be bigger than your story. I'm not with that. You have an event or something that's great. I'm gonna definitely acknowledge it without even
Mhm.
mentioning myself in it, right? And modesty, it all depends on how would myself as I got older, the modesty part of me sort of died out a little bit. You know, I'm like, yeah,
How do you define that? Is that more a mental attitude with you, or is that more like an outward
it's more of a
expression?
mental. it- it's both because I didn't express it until I had to. Um, Kids just ask me, man, if you made it, why you here with us? That's I just be like,
Mm.
'cause somebody got to come back and tell you the game plan so you can
Mhm.
avoid the pitfalls.
Mhm.
So I choose to do this, even though I'm I had success doing other things. It's
Mhm.
something that I embraced and didn't complain about the energy that I was getting for others who were not there.
Mhm.
And I just always wanted to work within. I didn't buck the system, you know, in a sense. I would take because, and I'll be quiet. Listen, when you're learning in education, there's a component where they're going to teach you about the ethics of it, understanding the ethics of being in those situations, being around young people, not forming relationships outside of the space provided. I
Mhm.
wasn't talking to, you know what I'm saying? We're not talking on the phone. If I'm having conversation with a young person, I'm calling the parent first.
Yep.
Mama, put on speakerphone. So I need both of y'all to hear. And I took that approach. I wasn't texting individuals. I wasn't doing that because I wanted to set a standard. So this is a part of who I am every day, all day. And just being able to, man, being working for a reentry program. I don't know if you know what a reentry program is, but it's individuals who
Mhm.
have served prison time
Right. Right.
and coming back to
Being
society.
just in society. Yeah.
Man, uh, humility and patience and forgiveness because I can't hold something over your head that you've already experienced if I'm in a position to say, despite that, these are steps we can take to be better. So, again, man, I love working with others. I don't like to finish projects with others, but I like to work with others and share ideals and share information. Uh, just so if you're using a technique that I could see be valuable to me, then I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind incorporating that, and vice versa. I'm not a gatekeeper of information. I'm not
Right.
a gatekeeper. Share it to the world because I think everybody deserves a chance to be in a better space, mentally
Right.
and physically. Just
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Now, I just want to give a little nuance on the modesty, at least the way I see it. I think modesty has more to do with reading the room. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not to say that there's not, I believe in time and place, you know, to be either flamboyant, either mentally or just with your appearance and whatnot. Like, I think there's time and place for everything. The thing is being able to read the room to know what's appropriate for this occasion, especially when you talk about working with others. Because a lot of times it's not about what your intent was, but again, how it's received. And so understanding if the room that you're in is kind of quiet, then you might want to be quiet so it doesn't disrupt the flow of the room. And so that's kind of how I seen it. But again, if you're in a room, if it's turned up, if the attitude is kind of, hyped up, then yeah, get hyped up. I'm not saying modesty has to be a 24/7 deal. But I think it's more so it's the understanding of time and place. There's a time and place to wear certain things. What you wear to the beach isn't what you wear to church. You know what I'm saying? Or vice versa. And again, I've seen cases where you go to some churches, it's like, there's an immodesty there. But look, there's nude beaches for a reason. Look, if you go there, if that's the code. If you want to go bare, then do that. I mean, like I said, I never had a issue with that. So I'm always the kind of like, when you're in Rome, you do what Romans do kind of deal. And so that's at least how I'm looking at the value. So when you guys are going through this, if you decide to circle modesty, consider it that. It doesn't necessarily being always shy and timid or dressing ultra conservatively or what have you. It's understanding what's appropriate. You don't want to attract negative attention to yourself. But if you're in an area where people are dressed to the nines, I still remember almost 30 years ago, my wife and I, we went to a New Year's party at a Philadelphia Museum of Natural History. And everybody was like dressed bling. I mean, gowns, guys in tuxedos and whatnot, and the dresses that the ladies had on and whatnot. It was like you would just, you were just fine. So yeah, I mean, now again, would she wear that to church? No, probably would. It would get the wrong type of attention. But for that night, it was like a gala type of night. And it was, you definitely, again, you fit the room. And so consider that when you talk about modesty. And just, again, last word on patience, like as far as it's not just about patience with people, it's just impatience with process. Like you see, like a lot of people, old people get on the phone and, you got to wait, and you hear the music in the background. And I'm hearing people just start swearing. It's like, that's effing call. It's like, man, this is how much I'm like, dude, I mean, it's like, or if you're in line at Starbucks trying to get your coffee in the morning or whatever, it's like 3 or 4. If they don't get your order in 2 minutes, your whole day just gets disheveled because they didn't get it fast enough. So again, I'm seeing that in just a lot of older people. It's almost like maybe you think you're running out of time or something like that, so you want everything early. But I really think that, in fact, I might want to do a show on that in the future. Like, why are older people so impatient with people, with process, and they just think that things, just happen. But I see a lot more of this with, like I said, with older people than younger people. But let's go to the other side, the final piece of this here. So we've talked about caring for self. We've talked about working with other people. We've also talked about, again, working for self. The last quadrant that we want to explore is, again, working for others, working and caring for others. So again, if you want to emulate these values, you want to have these in relationships, again, cooperation, fairness, honor, leadership, open-minded, citizenship, loyalty, trustworthiness. And again, here it's like how I relate to groups is the nuance in the quadrant. Contrast that with the upper left, says me separate from others. But in the lower quadrant, again, relating to groups. So here it's like it's not just the fact that you've separated yourself from others through your work ethic and your habits and your discipline and your persistence. But I've seen a lot of, again, very ambitious, successful people. They don't necessarily know how to play well, get along with others. And again, you may think that, again, this portion of the chart, you may think this is all there is. As long as I get there, then that's all that matters. And since me is at the center of the circle, you think that that's why this is the most important. As long as I get ahead. But again, successful people, the most successful people, I would say, it's not about just them getting successful. It's about who you're bringing with you. And so all of these qualities, again, the leadership qualities, open mind, can you listen to other people? I see a lot of people who have a lot of that ambition on this side here, determination, and you know, certainly, and in a group, you know, you want people who have this. But then their problem is they're not necessarily open-minded. And you don't expand. You work in a very narrow lane. And you don't allow people to introduce new ideas, new ways of thinking. Your way's been working for you for so long, you're like, why change it? But again, if you want to outgrow where your individual achievements have taken you, then you got to start to operate in this space a little bit more. And this is an area that a lot of people are, you know, self-starters, motivators, or whatnot. I mean, it's tough. Or a lot of people, they don't relate to groups in this idea of building consistency and cooperation. A lot of them employ fear tactics. Especially if you're in leadership or whatever, get it done and you're fired. Or you become abusive or start to misuse your authority that you may have. And you know, again, we do live in a world where people are rewarded. If you are in this space here, especially in a corporate environment, a lot of people look at this here and these people get promoted to leadership. But a lot of those people suck, quite frankly, at this down here. And so I just want to put that caveat in there because, working in corporate for as long as I have. And that's why I'm also saying supermarket approach with what we're saying. This may not work in all circumstances. Because certainly in corporate, they don't necessarily care about trustworthiness or loyalty or being open-minded or honor or fairness as long as the bottom line gets done. And only when that bottom line starts getting compromised will they start looking at these other things. You go to a review, I know my job, they'll take these leadership reviews. It's supposed to be like an anonymous kind of thing where employees are allowed to express how they feel about management and management decisions and how they do things or whatnot. And it'll be interesting what kind of answers come back when they do these annual reviews. And it's a good exercise, but sometimes you think that, well, they're not doing it because it's not like they plan to necessarily change anything. But it is an opportunity for employees certainly to express themselves and to vent over how they think they're being treated or valued by the corporation. But I've seen a lot of times where, again, the especially in the country that we live in, capitalist country or whatever, this side tends to get all the attention. The other stuff seems to be, yeah, it's nice as long as these other things are done. But nobody thinks about how this works with, in conjunction with, this lower half. So, Coach, your thoughts on this bottom piece here, how I relate to groups, and also just to compare, just another comparison, again, caring for others. So kind of both of these, or how do you act towards others, and then again, how do you relate to certain groups of people? So talk about that a little bit. How can we balance? Yeah, you need that drive, determination, go get it, and aggressive and all of that. But how do we bring these into it so it doesn't seem like these are just an afterthought?
I mean, you hear the word loyalty a lot,
Yeah.
leadership. We hear those things. We don't hear fairness a lot. Honor. We don't hear being open-minded a lot. Loyalty and trustworthiness, I guess, it comes down to, one is what your expectation of me is to be loyal to you, but are you trustworthy? And I think those come out in people's experiences with others. And, one thing I've always tried to do is be open-minded as much as possible. I know, YouTube is a different space. You sort of have to
Yeah.
you got to choose a side on YouTube, right? But I've always approached people with open-mindedness. You and another guy could both be my friend, but if y'all were having a beef, I didn't choose a side. I could separate that and sort of try to at least say, hey, man, see it from both sides. And, and again, it depends on the population of people, right? You would think that in a professional setting, most people would exemplify some of these traits.
Absolutely.
However, you hear them talking the break room, what they don't like about somebody, and da-da-da. So, and again, man, sometimes we just put ourselves in situations and we expect somebody to join us just because. And I've always tried to be fair. I think there's something going around now, like people are expecting people to choose a side. I refuse to choose a side because it's not who I am. I'm gonna choose, but the side I do choose is going to be the righteous side as much as possible. Not saying that I'm exempt from anything that's happened before in the past. And here it is today, it's still happening. But even with my own faults, I always typically accepted the outcome. I wasn't assuming that just because I was doing something that it was going to be successful. I never approached it that way. I'm like, okay, just be unbiased about it. But don't get offended if Brother Bennett disagrees with my ideology.
Yeah.
That's part of who he's supposed to be. He's not supposed to be a follower, unless we agree on something, then it's okay to acknowledge that. Like, you know what? I can agree. Or I can, what was that word we used to say? We used to say, what's that little phrase? I can agree to disagree.
Yes.
And then you could walk away. I'll see you tomorrow, Brother Bennett. Yeah, all right, Coach Ferg, I'll see you tomorrow. We ain't walking away, ain't spoken 2 months, 6 months. Why? Because I'm mad at what Brother Bennett said. Brother Bennett wasn't loyal to me. He chose somebody else. You know, it just gets heavy on a person's mind. So I think this is one of the probably most complicated ones because people have to constantly check in with who they are and what values and do they stand on, regardless of who it's coming from or whatever, especially if you were engaged in conversations, if you're on a panel or if you're in the barbershop or if you're in a group of people who you believe are like-minded, you start to see where some of these qualities start to separate themselves in people. And again, man, I think people mischaracterize some words. I think we should just start pulling up definitions of words. And I'm all for the Webster dictionary definition of it. I need the old school where it breaks it down and and within the context of words. Just this generalization sometime with AI is like, I need to understand the old school definition and get a better understanding. And I do that a lot with younger people because they're not so privy to words and understand the context. So just being able to say, hey, you believe that's what it says, but it doesn't say that. Let's read it. Or you was right. And here's an added component. And I think that's some of the best ways to approach when you're trying to influence somebody to a better space. Not feelings. It ain't about how I feel. It's about what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And what sometimes things can be. Sometimes things like yesterday, I chose to not choose a side. I chose not to choose a side early. I'm right there waiting to see which one tilts. But not when you're working with people. Sometimes you got to hold the line in the middle. Sometimes you either have to pull them close together or allow them to go further apart, but not too far to where they can't come back together.
Yeah.
And just having those conversations, building those relationships. And that's why I say with you, I can see you're in a space where you've gaining a lot. And the more you gain, you want to spread out to other people. You want to give it. But then you think about, am I really ready to deal with people's emotions and just be, you know what I'm saying? Because I listen to you over time and your position sometimes is not picking a side. And how will people receive that? Oh man, Brother Benny, man, I thought you was good. I thought you was gonna be on my side. But you looking at the reality and the truth of it, they was just in their feelings about it. I just don't like him. They did something to me. But when you deal with the reality and the truth of it, I guess it allows you to be in a headspace where you are at peace and not fighting emotions.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. It's the idea of, again, you becoming more confident and assured of what your values are. What do I value as a person, as a human being? And some of that is going to overlap over multiple values. Again, our political system is such where it's like very polarizing. It's like you got to be in one camp or the other. I would love if this country, for example, not to get overly political, that we just put all these issues that everybody talks about, we just put them all on line item. Party, no party. So I can say, I'm for this, but I'm not for that. And I'm for this, and I'm not for that. And whatever the votes or tallies are after that, just leave it as is. But it's like you gotta marry everything to be considered to be in one camp or another. And it's becoming more where, again, if you don't buy 10 out of 10 items, it used to be, okay, we may have differences, but we got some core beliefs that we have that keep us together, but we can disagree on these other things on the outside. there's your core issues, and then there's those things that are, you know, kind of open for debate. Now, everybody wants straight allegiance, straight alliance, and I think it's hurting the dialogue, or it's hurting the conversation that's being had. And that's why I had to kind of pull out of a lot of conversations, because it was like, this is just kind of going on one track, and nobody really wants to, you know, we talk about echo chambers or things of that nature. Nobody really want to have, you know, those. That's why, you know, me and Peter, you know, with the Gray Area show, that was the whole purpose of the show. We wanted to have, you know, me and Peter are obviously very different in all aspects. Pretty much, we look different. We're different age brackets. I mean, I'm much older than he is. The only thing we have in common, again, we have beagles. I think that's about we you know, we have our dogs, but again, I appreciate the ability to have a conversation in a respectful way, where I'm not going to be hurt by you having a different opinion from me, because I've just gotten to a point in my life now where I know I'm good with me. And again, a lot of the insecurities that people have, and again, those insecurities also lead to anger. Because, well, really, I think the insecurity leads to fear first, and then fear then goes to anger. And people don't know how to respond in a world where, you know, you have these insecurities, these fears and whatnot. Anger is how a lot of people lash out. But I've gotten better. Well, I'm like I said, I'm really good with the things I believe in, and I've gotten, certainly, I think over the years, a bit more bolder in expressing them in some areas where I might not have been comfortable before, because I didn't want the division or the smoke or whatever. And now I'm just like, this is who I am, and this is what I believe. Now it's on you how you process that information, but I'm not responsible for managing your emotions about it. And so I can't. So that's another reason why, again, I don't get angry or as frustrated in these settings. I don't appreciate it. I mean, it's not, to me, it's not good content. But I certainly operate in a space now where it's like, look, I'll tell you what I think, and then I'll let you figure out, well, is he or is he not? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's not, I had a show with, again, with Boss Man a couple years ago, and we were talking about, you know, just our faith, like Christianity. Like, you know, I don't know, am I a Christian? I don't. That's not for. I don't know if that's for, you know, for me to answer. I know what I believe. Now you figure it out, because there's certain things, there's certain positions that are in the church or whatever I may not rock with, but I'll explain why. So you figure it out. You may say, "Oh, I'm a heretic," or I'm died in the blue believer, whatever. I don't wear those labels anymore. And so that's, you know. But again, a lot of that is because I have become very at peace with myself, and I'll have to give an answer for the life that I live one day. And when that day comes, then I'll rock with that. But that's a big part of, you know, I think Coach and I, what we're trying to get people to embrace and hopefully get to a certain level of understanding. Figure yourself out. Figure out what you value, what you believe. Those areas that you're weak in, make those areas stronger. Work on those things. Be accountable. Get people that you can be accountable to help you implement some of those things. But as he said earlier, which that may have to be your hashtag, Coach. Y'all love your ugly.
Yeah. And one beautiful thing about it, it's not necessarily physical. You know, it's not necessarily physical. You know, sometimes, you know, people are struggling with where they are emotionally, and sometimes you have to embrace it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times we go undiagnosed with certain things in our community, and we can't never figure out what's stopping us from achieving some of our goals. And a lot of times, you know, people just try to avoid it and block it out, but you can't, because it's just a part of who you are. And when you embrace that shadow, because the shadow trips you up, And when you get that shadow in front of you, it's no longer a shadow. You can sort of guide it or the direction you want to go. So, yeah, man, that's why I think I adopted that about 15 years ago. I used to tell kids, "Love you ugly." They used to look at me, "Why you used to call me ugly?"
That's like I said, that's you put that stick on the back of your car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
Your truck.
I used to break it down because kids, they curious. Why you say that? Call me ugly. No. Everybody that's in a position to teach y'all, a lot of us, we all went to high school too. We was at this ugly duckling stage. And I always used to use that reference, the ugly duckling. A lot of people hadn't read that book. Go read, I used to tell kids, go read the book and then come back to me. Oh man, when they come back, their eyes are lit up. Oh, it turned into a beautiful swan. You will be that swan one day. You will be that. So don't shun yourself because this is the package you're in.
Yeah.
In that package, you make sure you obtain some of these qualities to where you will always be a gift to someone. Not everybody want that gift, but someone will embrace you as a gift in their lives and just be willing to embrace it. And that's what so that was a lot of the ways I approached it. Even myself, and I wasn't afraid to use myself as the guinea pig of the butt of the joke. Just to take it off of them because you working with minds who are sensitive about appearances, things like that. You have to be very delicate and not say you as this person. No, I was just like, take me. See, I'm ugly, right? And they like, you're not ugly. I know that, but however, that's the way I break it down to them. I would always step outside of just being this person who's over on this side of the table. Sometimes I have to come to the other side, and so you can see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
That I'm not, that we all go through some things similar in life. It just may be at different times. But if I went through it for you, allow me to provide information that's going to garner you the best outcome, because I don't expect anything from somebody that I'm helping except succeed in that space with me. So when you leave me, you can have reference to some things to help you avoid the pitfalls of life and be willing to embrace new things and discover new things about yourself. So, with that.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I mean, I think we can put a bow again on this episode. We got one more show to go, part 5 of anger management. Next week we'll close it out, and then we'll begin certainly another series after that. But certainly want to appreciate you guys for being with us tonight. Certainly make sure that you hit the like button. Certainly as you leave the show, consider becoming, again, a subscriber. Certainly to the network. Certainly we appreciate it. And again, we'll just continue to churn out content. Stay tuned to the Sparta HQ network for additional content. Certainly during the week. I know Saturday we got a show coming up on the Hangout. And I think it's dealing with female superheroes. And then I think on Monday is the wrestling show. Tuesday we have another Spartan Arena topic. And of course on Sunday we have our gray area show. I believe we're dealing with the idea of cancel culture. We're going to be dealing with that on the gray area this Sunday. So again, just stay tuned to the network, to everything that's going on. And again, we'll continue to churn out good content, but certainly for Coach and for myself, this is Next Gen Training on the Sparta HQ Network. You guys certainly enjoy the rest of your week. So until next time, take care. God bless. We'll see you then. Good night.
Salute.
If I can find the outro. He always moves around. There we go.